This is Designing with Purpose, where we break down the thinking behind architecture for clients, for architects, for better projects. I'm your host, Kyle Stewart, talking with the team at Thrive Architects about what actually drives great design. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Designing with Purpose. I'm joined today by firm principal of Thrive Architects, Jeremy Bartlett, and associate principal, Dave Raschka. Welcome back to the studio, guys. How are you?
Hello. We're good. It's warm.
It
Hot.
is a hot one out there today for sure, and all week long. But we are talking today about when should you look for an architect. I'm excited to hear from you guys about what you think when it comes to the process of choosing to work with an architect, and perhaps a lot of people wait too long before they actually start to have a conversation with an architect because maybe they assume they need more than they have prepared. Maybe they assume it's going to get too expensive too fast. Who knows? That's why you guys are here. And so we're going to jump right in to this topic. So why don't you just kind of help everybody understand in your experience, what do clients typically think they need to have figured out before they call an architect? And is that true or not true?
That is interesting. So every client comes to us in a different spot.
Yeah.
Some come really early in the process. They haven't really thought too much about it, other than they know they need an architect and they need to do a project. And then others come and they have like like a booklet put together, and basically they're conveying a million bits of information down to their garbage disposal be installed in the sink, and they want to talk about that first, instead of like building the building. But so our first step is usually figure out where they are in that process, sort through it, and then move forward.
I think that client, I'll again, it varies a lot, but I think the clients tend to have the thought that, well, my architect is designing the building. And while that's true, there's a lot of value to bringing your architect on maybe earlier than you expect. I have a client right now that's he wants to do a project. He doesn't have a site yet. Well, that's a great time to be talking to an architect because we can offer him insight as to this site might be better than that site, how the building fits, how how it lays out, what are some pros and cons of different opportunities. So again, while he's doing his initial site search and he may have a handful of options that he's looking at, your architect can bring a lot of valuable insight into the pros and cons of each of those and help kind of explore options with you. I think is a good time to have the architect, helping with that stuff.
So clearly, people don't have to even have the site ready yet for where they're going to build. Obviously, they don't need to have a full plan put together. Let's take it a step even further backwards. If people aren't even sure they need an architect, what kinds of questions should they start asking themselves?
That's a good question. I actually get that call quite a bit. People will call and they'll literally say, I don't know if I need an architect or not. But here's what I got going on. And we honestly, we talk it through, right? So oftentimes it does end up that they need an architect. If the building, there's certain code rules that apply. 50,000 cubic feet of a building, if you're doing an alteration within it, you have to have an architect or a design professional involved. But sometimes it's just it can be a small project, but it's heavily detailed, and you still want professional guidance on that.
Mhm. Is it fair to say that the majority of commercial projects, you need to have an architect because of the scope
Yeah, that's pretty
and
accurate.
code?
Yeah, it's a fair
Okay.
statement. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So then it becomes more of a question of, when do they need to bring the architect on? And it sounds like the earlier the better. Is that generally true?
Generally true. I guess that ends our episode.
Yeah, well,
Well,
we want to keep it
I think
simple for people. So the earlier the better, but we can get into
yeah,
some of
there's
the some of the
a
nuances
lot
of
of
it.
questions. I think a lot of questions comes up. Who do you go to first, your architect or your contractor? And I think that's another interesting question. It depends on your approach, if you're going to bid it out to multiple contractors, or if you're going to go design build approach, or where that is. But we do a lot of both types of projects, where it's design bid build or just design build where we're paired up with the contractor. But I think in both cases, it's good to get the contractor on or the architect on early, to be involved in the process from the beginning. I think a lot of people tend to nowadays. Jeremy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like most people tend to go to contractors first, when they're looking to do a project.
No, I'm sorry.
Wrong answer.
And that's not necessarily, you can come to an architect and kind of vet out some of your ideas, and get a first pass at a plan where contractors gonna be able to give you better numbers on it.
I have a really good real life example.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I have a
absolutely.
client right now. He's still looking at sites. He called yesterday. He wants us to draw up a prototype building for a mythical site that he's still searching for, so that he can give it to his contractor,
Yep.
so that they can do some preliminary budget pricing, and then he can kind of use all of that information to package together to get his financing, to figure out the lot and the whole bit. So it's a team approach.
Yeah.
We had an upcoming episode about that, right? We're going to talk about the team approach and doing architect and contractor in a design build fashion, but owner picking and selecting both to get the best of both worlds.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned that. I have the same thing going on with that client I met with. I guess he doesn't have a site, but he has some ideas of what he wants to do, and he's got a contractor. A contractor can't give him any ballpark numbers till he has an idea of what he's trying to do. So you got to put something on paper to kind of get the process moving forward and kind of talk through different ideas and what's going to make sense, what's going to be viable. So yeah, having the architect on early for that is very beneficial.
Very smart. And if we had a contractor in the room right now as part of this conversation, do you think that they would agree that it's helpful for them too if the client has already talked to the architect so that they can bring
93.75% of them might agree.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
it's
a
going to
few.
depend on the project, right? I mean, there's
Yeah.
certain cases where it's, it depends on the scope of the work and what's happening. But I mean, I think that most contractors would love to see something on paper before they start putting numbers to it.
I would
It's not-
say,
yeah, and I think
how many times have I heard that line
Right.
said to me? Yeah.
Yeah.
We work with a lot of contractors in general.
Yeah.
And a lot of them call and say, hey, I just got to get something down on paper that I can show the subs, that I can get some numbers put together, we can get some rough pricing. Can you put together a little sketch for us?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, even if an owner is talking to the contractor, it's still coming back to the architect.
Yeah.
So I won't say cut out the middleman. I'm not saying that. I think we work all together well in unison.
Yeah.
And get us involved, get them involved. Bring us to the table. We'll help you get a contractor. If you have a contractor ready, have them and you come to the table. That's the cool thing about architecture on this side. When you're independent like this, you really can work in all facets. We can do design build, we can do it independently, we can do the traditional bid build method. We're full faceted.
I think people will find that extremely educational and helpful because you guys have said several things that I wouldn't have thought of, but the fact that you can help them even pick out a site, you can help them obviously with the design portion of it, but also you have the connections to contractors, you have interior design in-house, uh, and codes and all of those things. So the fact that you offer all of that right out of the gate to a client who probably doesn't know what they don't know, right? So
Yep,
For sure.
that's
and we do it
invaluable.
all for $9.99.
$9.99. We won't say how many zeros are at the end of that, but it's $9.99.
Yeah, you mentioned contractors. I mean, people will come to us with projects that they're looking at doing, and we've got a huge network of contractors that we've worked with, and we can help vet that list out too. That who's a good fit for this type of project here's 5 contractors that we've worked with and we've been successful on projects with, and we can help steer that direction as well. If you don't have a contractor picked out yet, or you're trying to pick between a few that you've talked to, or
And we have some that are our favorites. I mean, that's the truth.
and it varies by project type.
It
We got
does.
certain ones that
Yeah.
fit certain sectors really well.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, we want the client to have a successful experience, and I hate recommending people in general because, and I think a lot of people, this is a stressful thing. I get asked for recommendations all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so I always hesitate because, if I recommend someone and it doesn't go well, that's egg on me too, right? So I think we really vet things out is where I'm going with that is that's why it's a strong benefit to giving us reaching out to us early on, talking things through because we probably can provide that insight. So
Yeah, and I'll go.
am I
I'll say
rambling? Am I
this.
rambling here?
You might be, but I had another thought too. I mean, we talked about site selection. Um, I mean, I think there's services that we can provide, having the experience with different communities and zoning that, I mean, we can look at a project, have a quick sit down with a client. This project isn't even going to be viable. Like, community's not going to let you do it here, or this
Yeah,
is not the right property, or
that's smart.
zoning issues, conditional approvals, like on the front end stuff. I mean, we could save you a lot of headaches if something is just never going to fly in a certain community or a certain
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, we've had a lot of experience with that. And some communities you bring in something in or you're trying to change the zoning or something.
Yeah,
Some of this we know right away. It's like, okay, that isn't going to fly
yeah,
or like in this community, their standards are here and you're going to end up having to spend an arm and a leg
yeah.
to try and yep,
Get it done.
try to get it.
And maybe that's okay, but having the knowledge up front is very beneficial. Again, the experience with working with different municipalities and working through approvals on so many projects, just having that experience so we can help kind of steer you in the right direction
Yeah.
from the get-go.
And there's some communities that their process is maybe you need to talk to an older person or government official before you really start to get deep into it. I mean, that's the kind of guidance I gave a client last week. They wanted to bring in a use into a building in a area that doesn't have that use currently. And I said, you really need to reach out to your older person before you really engage us architecturally, just to make sure that it aligns and that they're going to kind of give me the green light. So
Yeah, I mean, all of those things are extremely beneficial.
you won't be able to chat GPT that either to get that
You
answer. You gotta
can't,
come
yeah,
to
yeah,
you gotta come
not
to
yet
us.
anyways. Yeah, that's so important. And so just as we kind of start to wrap it up today, what are some of the fears that people might have when it comes to an architect? Are they worried that it's going to be too expensive? Are they worried that it's going to overcomplicate things? And how
Yeah,
do you answer those?
both. Um, the expense part, I think that when you're there's a reality to this, right? You're hiring a design professional. We have years of experience. We do have a value. There is we do get compensated for our time. We are not as expensive as doctors and lawyers, but we are expensive. That is a reality. Um, I mean, I think that you have to look at it just like you look at going to a doctor or hiring an attorney, hiring your accountant. Is we're bringing insight, knowledge, and competency
Yep.
to your
Experience.
investment.
So what about complications? Do our clients sometimes worried about bringing in on an architect, another voice in the project in addition to the contractor? Is there a fear of overcomplicating things?
I think that's sometimes maybe why people will choose to reach out to the contractor first, is they're a little nervous about architect overcomplicating things or taking it in a direction. I know that there are different ways to approach projects, right? I can only speak to our firm and the way we approach it. We're very client based. We listen and then we move forward. I know there's different bedside manner, we'll call it. There's a different bedside manner with some professionals versus others where they want the control and they want to direct the process. So I think it's important to, I guess, ask some good upfront questions and engage the architects that you are talking to just to see does their bedside manner agree with what your approach is going to be. Some people want to be hands off and they just want to say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna trust you. Just get it done for me. That definitely is out there. Then then you want the architect that is just gonna pretty much just take it and run with it, right? And just kind of give you an update. And if you're more hands on, we're probably a little bit more probably the firm for you in that regard. So I think it's finding it becomes a real commitment. It's like a I think I might even said this before. It's a little bit like a marriage. You know, we're on a journey with the client together for a long time, especially on bigger projects. So, you know, they take a few years. And so you definitely want to pick somebody that you can tolerate, right? As an architect, as a design professional, you want to pick somebody that you're gonna
Personality-wise. I
personality-wise,
mean,
you're
yeah,
gonna
you
get
want
along
somebody
with.
to mesh with. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
And when it comes to choosing an architect, I mean, it never hurts too to reach out to you and just ask the question, do I need an architect? And you can help them think through that initial question to decide if they even need one. And then beyond that, though, getting you guys involved early in the process helps so much in terms of helping the client make decisions, informing them of things that they may not have already thought of, connecting them with the contractor, helping them understand the codes, picking out a site, and then obviously, your bread and butter, the actual design work, is extremely important. And when it comes to added costs and complication, things like that, ultimately it's not a lot in the grand scheme of things, and sounds like it's well worth it for the time and even money and headaches that could potentially save the clients. So
Yeah, I
anything
think
else
we
you guys
actually
want to add
bring
before
a
we
lot.
close?
I was just saying in that last topic, I think we actually bring a lot more to the table in value and cost savings. We most likely this is an immeasurable item, but most likely on projects we cover our fees in our design approach. And in other words, by making the right selections, avoiding pitfalls through the process that end up costing more time and money, um, we're probably covering our fee in that process. Hard to measure. Yeah. But if I can avoid you like designing something that ultimately gets built and then it's wrong, and a code official finds that and asks to get changed, and it's like super big expense, or if I can early on in the design process vet out a potential problem that you're going to have operationally that costs you a lot of money down the road. You know, we're paying for our fee in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think if you go back and listen to past episodes too, we've kind of touched on a lot of different things that make it pretty clear that working with an architect, especially who is client focused and willing to, work within their limits as far as budget and time and all that, it more than pays for itself in the end. So, well, that is all the time we have for this episode of Designing with Purpose. Appreciate you guys being on once again. We'll be back with another episode next week. If you guys have questions or comments or ideas for other topics, please don't hesitate to let us know and drop those in the comments underneath this video. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we will see you next time on Designing with Purpose.